Hi, welcome to my channel. Please like and subscribe. Among the dense western forests, a place full of both hidden and revealed mysteries, lived a special girl. Lyralei, an exceptional girl with ginger hair, was a playful child who from her earliest years had been blessed with a friend and companion who was always with her, while running, doing everyday chores, or even getting into trouble and teasing the other children. The name of that friend was the Wind. From early childhood, Lyralei could call upon the power of the wind. She could run as fast as a four-feathered arrow shot from a bow, and when she grew older, she fired four-feathered arrows with incredible power and accuracy. It was as if the wind took the arrows from Lyralei's bow and carried them to their destination. Having this power was strange for Lyralei, but even stranger was the fact that neither the people around her nor even her parents possessed such abilities. As she grew older and entered her teenage years, she began asking questions. Gradually, she realized that her life and her past were not what she had always believed. In fact, the truth was harsh and far from pleasant. Lyralei was a foundling. On the night Lyralei was born, a terrible storm destroyed the entire village of Zarokina, where her parents had lived. Not a single house remained standing, and not even one healthy tree was left behind. Yet somehow, miraculously, Lyralei survived. According to her foster father and foster mother, she had been left at their doorstep by a survivor. That was the story they told her after she learned they were not her real parents. However, there were several problems with that story. For example, according to the villagers, no one had survived the storm that struck Zarokina that night, which meant there could not have been a survivor to bring Lyralei there. But when she pointed this out to her foster father, his answer was simple. Only the wind knows how you came to our doorstep. Her foster father had meant it as nothing more than a simple joke. Yet in truth, his words were not wrong at all. Many years passed, and Lyralei grew into a young adult known throughout the lands as the Windrunner. Her mastery over the power of the wind continued to grow, and little by little, she took upon herself the duty of protecting the western forests. Yet despite all of this, questions and doubts about her past never stopped haunting her. But running away was something Lyralei had always excelled at, even running away from reality. As the years went by, however, she finally decided to seek the truth. She needed to know why she possessed these powers, who her real parents were, what had truly happened on the night she was born, and many other things besides. Finding the answers to those questions was far from easy. Even her foster father and foster mother knew little about the truth. For a long time, she searched for clues, following every lead she could find. At last, her search and investigation led her to one of the elder servants of fire, a man who claimed to have been a friend of Lyralei's ancestors, and who had mourned the deaths of her true parents.
I'm so glad to have found you again.
Lyralei, the old servant celebrated with joy. At last, he told her the entire truth. Many years ago, there had been a people who all possessed the gift of the wind. They lived in the region of Zarokina, as part of an order known as the Circle of the Windborn. The Circle of the Windborn was one of the most influential groups in the governance of Zarokina. However, they were not the only faction with power. Other groups existed as well, among them the followers of Angols, who often involved themselves in the affairs of the region. The various factions did not get along with one another. The Circle of the Windborn in particular was often the target of envy because of the powers they possessed. Using the blessings of the wind, which they all believed came from Mother Wind, the Circle protected Zarokina and ensured its safety. For many years, they lived in peace without any great troubles. Every member of the Circle inherited the power of the wind from birth. Because of this, they never allowed outsiders to join their ranks. The followers of Angol's, however, were different. They welcomed anyone who wished to join them and accepted all who sought entry into their order. For a long time, everything continued as it always had. Then the strange problem appeared, a problem that would ultimately change the fate of all Zarokina. One of the children born into the Circle of the Windborn, Lyralei's grandmother, was born without the blessing of the wind. It was a rare occurrence, but not an impossible one. On rare occasions, children were born within the circle who inherited none of the wind's power. As Lyralei's grandmother grew older, she was eventually forced to leave the circle. Years later, as a young woman, she fell in love with a young man who was the son of one of Zarokina's high priests. And that love would become the beginning of Zarokina's downfall. The high priest had long harbored a deep resentment toward the Circle of the Windborn. For that reason, he not only allowed his son to marry Lyralei's grandmother, but welcomed her into his household with open arms. Yet his kindness was nothing more than a mask. His true intention was to uncover the secrets, traditions, and hidden knowledge of the Circle of the Windborn through Lyralei's exiled grandmother, and then use that knowledge against them. Years passed. All the while, the high priest carefully sowed seeds of doubt and division among the people of Zarokina. Little by little, he turned them against the Circle of the Windborn, convincing them to distrust those who had protected them for generations. His goal was simple: to strip the Circle of their influence and seize power for himself. And in the end, he succeeded. The secrets he had learned from his daughter-in-law became weapons, and he used them against the Circle of the Windborn. What happened after that remains a mystery. Perhaps someone still knows the truth, but if they do, they have chosen to remain silent. The only thing anyone knows and the tale that the great servant of the dancing flame told Lyralei is this: after those events, no one ever saw or heard from the Circle of the Windborn again. The people of Zarokina turned against them. The circle was destroyed, and not a single one of its members was left alive. But the story does not end there. Many years later, on the night of Lyralei's birth, Mother Wind made her choice. When Lyralei was born, bearing the blessing of the wind, Mother Wind decided to avenge the fallen Circle of the Windborn and punish the people of Zarokina for what they had done. The storm that consumed the village was her wrath. Yet Mother Wind also chose another path. She entrusted the newborn child of the wind, the last and newest member of the Circle of the Windborn, to another family, so that she could grow up in peace. And when the time was right, she would learn the truth about her ancestors, her bloodline, and the roots from which she came. In truth, the night Lyralei was born was the night the people of Zarokina paid the price for their great sins. And was not merely an ending. It was also the beginning of a new age for the Circle of the Windborn. The destruction of Zarokina and the deaths of its people were the price that was paid so that Lyralei could return to the embrace of her true mother, the wind itself. For while the Circle of the Windborn had fallen, its bloodline had not been extinguished. Lyralei was its final heir, the last surviving child of the wind. And through her, the legacy of the circle would rise again. And that was the story of Windranger in Dota 2. However, there is another interesting detail about her. Even today, many players still refer to her as Windrunner. The reason goes back to the days of Dota All-Stars, often called Dota 1, when the heroes' appearances, names, and backstories were heavily inspired by the Warcraft universe. Back then, this hero was known as Alleria Windrunner. In Warcraft, there were three famous sisters: Alleria Windrunner, Virisa Windrunner, and Sylvanas Windrunner. The Windranger we know today was originally based on Alleria, while Drow Ranger was based on Sylvanas. When Dota 2 was created, however, legal and copyright considerations required many of the old Warcraft-inspired names to be changed. As a result, Windrunner became Windranger. For quite some time, many heroes still referred to her as Windrunner in their voice lines.
Now, Windrunner, you don't have to run from me!
You might have known, Windrunner, that you cannot outrun death.
Chase them down, Windrunner.
Windrunner, slow down and stay down.
The breeze said you would aid us, Windrunner.
Another interesting detail is that the hero's original name, Alaria, was changed to Lyralei. The two names are remarkably similar. In fact, the letters are almost the same. But no one really knows the exact pronunciation of her name. Different heroes pronounce it in different ways.
You don't fool me, Lyralei. I see the killer behind that smile.
Trust me, Lyralei. You're better off not knowing your people.
A cold wind blows for you tonight, Lyralei.
But she does reveal the correct pronunciation of her own name through her arcana.
Lyralei the Windranger.
But the interesting thing is that in the story, she learned about her past from an elder of the Dancing Flame followers. It was there that she discovered who her real parents were and what had truly happened. I personally imagined Ember's spirit in the role of that great servant of the Dancing Flame.
It was from an elder who sits amongst the servants of the Dancing Flame that I heard the truth of my people.
Although the game's developers themselves do not like to go into the details. Speaking of her voice lines, there is nothing particularly noteworthy about her character itself, except that she has a lot of arguments and bickering with Drow Ranger.
That's some fancy ice bow you have there, Drow. In your dead hand.
Don't knock me, Windrunner.
Drow Ranger, where'd you learn to shoot?
You lost that one.
Guess you have to learn to be more quiet, Drow.
My arrow found your arrow's mark.
Well, I guess we know who's the better shot now.
She has a few voice lines with ranged heroes or heroes who use bows and guns. But her Arcana voice lines are a whole different story. Just for buying the Tome of Knowledge, the item that grants XP, she has 31 different lines. In them, she talks about various heroes, Roshan, and a few other things. They're all interesting, but there's nothing particularly strange or noteworthy about them. For example, she references the Solar Empire, which Mirana was the heir to but chose to leave behind.
Did you know the Solar Throne holds influence over a vast kingdom that the heir apparent has been missing for many years?
Meepo also has a really cool voice line.
Windrunner, how you doing?
Directed at Windranger that is quite interesting, which is a reference to the TV show Friends. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Be sure not to forget your support. Until next time, Qezh Channel.